then our reality begins to shift to something that is so much more expansive.
There is no treasure beyond the process. The process itself is the treasure.
We don't have to continue to ask, just be it wherever you are all of the time.
If you believe in something, but you did not experience it, this belief is also, it has another side, and this other side is doubt. So you will never be complete in your understanding until you have experienced it.
And you switch to a connection with a person, and that connection becomes more connected because you're mindful and you're present.
This is why I advocate for mindful living, because mindful living is the way you can see the profoundness of life.
And as I mentioned, Rudy, this is a very casual conversation because those who tune into the Heart Leader podcast are seeking to connect with your heart and your soul and know who you are as a soul being and how that expresses out into the world. And as I was getting to know you through the details you provided to us, I saw so much crossover between our two paths. From what I could gather, you came through like a technology background and you've done a lot of things in the world, but that only drove you deeper into your inner world and knowing more about who you are internally. So, can you tell me how your expression of Rudy Daniel's outside drove you deeper into the knowing of who you are inside of you?
Sure. Well, I got this question a lot of times, but this was the most original way to describe it. So yeah, thank you for that. Sure. It all began in my childhood. I had an amazing childhood where I thought that the universe is so profound and amazing, and I had this great vision of being an explorer, and I didn't take anything for granted, really. It felt like a sort of a dream for me, and I had a lot of mystical experiences as a child. But when I grew up, throughout my adolescence and the dreadful label of being an adult, I suddenly felt that life is too mundane. There are no more frontiers to explore, at least not for me. And I felt that life is a drag. And it brought me back to my childhood questions of what is the universe? Who am I? What is the nature of reality? These kind of questions that have eluded my mind for a long, long period of time came back. And I had more sufficient tools to try to unpack the mystery. So it kind of led me to deep conversation with myself for a long period of time. And then I thought that, probably there are people who have figured this out, or not figured this out, but at least had greater explorations or greater tools to unpack all these mysteries. And I stumbled upon Eastern philosophies and teachings, and then Western philosophies and science, and the whole journey, which still unfolds to this day, is really amazing. So, who I am today is a representation of all those previous events, and I think that much more will follow in the future. So it's not the end game for me.
Yeah. For me, it's been like a treasure uncovering, right? Like every step I take on the journey of getting to the treasure, you think it's the treasure you're after, but it's actually the steps along the journey that's the true treasure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just the process is the treasure. There is no treasure beyond the process. The process itself is the treasure. This is why I advocate for mindful living, because mindful living is the way you can see the profoundness of life. I can kind of compare it to music. So Alan Watts talked a lot about that. Alan Watts, the British philosopher, who said that the point of music is not waiting for the song to finish, but it is the process of music that is so interesting for us. Same thing is for dancing or any other activity you can think of, being an entrepreneur, being in a relationship. It's all about the process. So I'm not after the treasure anymore, as I was in the beginning of my journey, my exploration. But now I see that the unfolding of everyday life is the purpose, is the thing I'm after. And I don't need any effort for that because, by definition, fundamentally, I'm alive so far. So, yeah.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned that as a kid in your youth, it was exciting to be alive, and then you hit adulthood, and some of that luster went away. In your When you went deeper within, did you ever discover what happened during that transition? Did you ever look back and say, why did that phase create kind of a lack of luster? And then how did you get it back? Because I've had people say something very similar. And so, if there's any pearls of wisdom that you can help the youth of today not have that transition where it's like, ugh, okay, now it feels so heavy just to be an adult. That label, adult, it's like it gets slapped on us and we go, ugh, no. How do you, what would you say to someone to say you don't have to do that?
Oh, I wouldn't say that because I think that, we live in a world of polarities. So just a quick example for that is that you will not know any concept of pleasure if you had not experienced the concept of pain. And for me, especially for me, because I only can speak from my point of view, my experience. Definitely pain and mental pain and desperation of feeling that life is a drag brought me to this journey. So I cannot complain about it. I will just say that for people who are living today in our Western society, it seems that mental health has become a real pandemic. People has a lot of anxiety, stress, depression, lack of fulfillment, lack of meaning. So I would say that the number one problem for that is the norms we built around our the societal norms. So you have to be someone. Um, you have to go. You have to get it, and it's okay. We this is the kind of game we're playing here. I'm not saying that is absolutely wrong. This is the reality we have, and I'm saying that let's use this game we have created, um, and through this game we can evolve. And this is why I think personally, because I hear that a lot of people, especially spiritual people, are against um, advancing, against technology, against, they're all about going back. But I'm saying there's no way to go back. The world is transient, it keeps on changing, and this is the reality we're facing now. So let's use the tools we have now, including technology, to introduce a new level to the game, to create more awareness about mindfulness, about mindful living. And this is the way we can change, not to go back, but to go forward into the future. And it was certainly my case. And certainly, this is what I would suggest to anyone who tackles these kind of problems, ideas. Go forward, don't look into the past. Just look into the past to learn, but don't cling to it. Don't identify yourself as the past.
Yeah, that's the surest way to have anxiety is to live in the past.
Or the future.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you have tools or things that you would recommend using technology that you yourself have found useful? I know you have a book. Are any of those in there?
Well, I have a book that I wrote throughout my journey, but if we're talking about technological tools, me and my co-founder Roy, we've co-founded a beautiful mindfulness app which emphasizes the philosophy that we have discussed, that mindfulness is about being aware, being present. And we have developed tools that will fit our Western kind of experiencing of reality. So let's say, for example, that we are used to fast pace, right? We keep on scrolling, we want fast content and all of this, and we all know that it's bad for us, absolutely. But what we are doing is using those tools to raise awareness for the profoundness of life. So the Affirmate app is about that. You have, for example, a 90-second mindfulness practice that you involve a personal item of yours, like a ring or a necklace, and you are immersed in only 90 seconds, but it's very compelling. And after that, your item becomes your reminder. So that's just one example. But if we're not talking about technological tools, I would say that you can turn everything into mindfulness, not by introducing a new activity, which always is associated with, another task that I need to do, and no one has the mental powers to add more stuff to their lives, especially adults. I'm saying use your activities, day-to-day activities, but do them mindfully. For an example, I have a cup of tea here, or it could be a cup of coffee, or whatever it is. And instead of just drinking it, thinking about something else, you can drink it mindfully. And that means being absolutely involved with all the processes of drinking, which would be holding the cup, feeling the sensation on your hands, and then playing with the aroma and taking a sip, and let the taste and the texture go through your body and follow all of these motions. And what it does, it focuses your awareness on one thing that is immediate, that happens now. And when you are totally immersed, there is an expansion of your awareness to the immediate moment, that opens a thing I love to call a crack in reality. From there, you see the profoundness of life, and you have broadened your spectrum of sensitivity towards the world just by doing very, very basic stuff. And it's experimental, and you don't need to believe in it. You just need to go ahead and try. So everything you like to do, you can do mindfully.
Yes. There's also, I've personally found a deeper connection that happens with people just by doing a simple task mindfully. So, beginning with holding tea or coffee and doing the task mindfully, then you switch to a connection with a person. And that connection becomes more connected because you're mindful and you're present. And so that's so
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that a mindful conversation is something else. It's totally different from a regular conversation, in which usually you're trying to be your best self, or give your best arguments. But if it's a mindful conversation, you are totally open and aware of the situation, and you have the capacity to listen, and you have the capacity to pick on stuff that you wouldn't pick on if it wasn't a mindful conversation. So that's a great way to connect to people, being mindful while you're speaking to them.
So much. So, your app, can you share a little more about what that is? How would someone get to it who might be interested? Because technology is part of our lives. And if there's something that can help someone take that next step who maybe doesn't know where to begin, that could be a great place to start.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for letting me share this part of my life. I'm super excited about that. We launched about 6 months ago with just one practice. That it was a practice that came to me in a dream about 3 years ago, when I saw a sort of a novel path to mindfulness in which people from all walks of life can engage. And the idea was to create ritualistic, like short and most importantly interactive practices that you can engage with, because otherwise if you're just listening to an instructor, like you usually do in meditation apps, with time it feels like a chore, and most people find it difficult to sustain such practices. So we figured out that we need to give tools, and build tools that people can engage with, because if you are doing something that is fun, something that you love to do, you will have the motivation to keep on doing it. And as our slogan goes, you are what you repeat. It's absolutely that. So if you did, I don't know, if you went to the gym for a week, so what? There are not a lot of results. But if you went to the gym for a year, you will see results. But your motivation to go to the gym has to be high. And how you keep a high motivation? Well, you love it. That's the only reason why you have high motivation, sustained for such a long time. And the Affirmate app is exactly that. It's small, short, ritualistic like practices that people can engage in doing them. And by that, they will be introduced to the world of mindfulness. And with time, it will no longer be a method. With time, it just be their usual day-to-day activity, filtered by the profoundness of existence, without the filters they had before as an adult. You find life as a drag and something that you need to improve all the time, all of this stuff. So yeah, you can find it both on iOS and Android. It's an A logo with a vibration inside, and you can just experiment with it. And that's the premise we strive to convey to people.
That's wonderful. We'll make sure that when someone's listening or watching this, that there's also a quick link that they can use to go either on
Amazing.
Android or iOS, just to get directly to it. Let's make it easy, right? And when you think about the ripple effect of that as well, if each of us begins to practice something that is that mindful in our own worlds, it's like love, right? If we have love for ourselves and we have mindfulness in our own reality and we create those, I love that, cracks in reality, right? Then our reality begins to shift to something that is so much more expansive. And we build a new paradigm, whatever that is, whatever that looks like. At least it's different. And we're choosing it mindfully instead of having it just be on autopilot and whatever happens, happens. So to me, that's exciting.
Absolutely. I love your voice, by the way, Amber. You have a great voice for calming down. Like you have a beautiful meditative, mindful voice. Love it. Just wanted to say. And for I think part of what you said about the community effect is that you need first to work on yourself. So a lot of people are trying to change the world by introducing belief systems and introducing doctrines. But I think that if you have the capacity to love yourself, to understand yourself, then you have the capacity to do it for others. And it will come naturally. It will not come with forcing it. It will not come from this place. So I do it, so you must do it. So that changes the paradigm. So once we work on ourselves, the ripple effect is natural. You don't need to create any effort for that.
Yes. So then the doctrine or the system could be focus inward and let that ripple outward instead of let's make little mini versions of me everywhere.
Absolutely.
You become me, you become me, you become me. It doesn't really work because we all came here to be expressions of who we are, not make everybody else expressions of who we are when we don't even know who we are yet. It doesn't work that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would love to hear more about the book that you wrote too. You're out there, you're putting apps out there to help people find more information about who they are mindfully. It's just a tool to help them. How could the book potentially help them do the same thing?
So the book is not it's again not a doctrine. I don't introduce any new belief systems. I don't say do this or do that. The idea of the book is to bring forward a lot of questions that for some natural reasons are kept on the background of our lives, like the most fundamental questions of who we are. It's like you said, who am I anyway? So it's a sort of a dialogue between me and the reader, and I introduce my story from my childhood to current days, and the things that I have encountered, and I present questions and let the reader ponder upon these questions. So if you're the kind of person that looking for an analytical discourse, or a kind of funny, cool story, that might help you. I'm not suggesting that this book is an answer for everything or even anything. And I stated in the book many times that I'm not a preacher, and I'm not a mystic. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a regular person that felt that these questions are very pressing, and I addressed them. And the method I've addressed them is by reasoning, thinking about it, learning, experiencing. And in the end of the day, I came to a conclusion that the best way to know something is to know it directly, not by belief, but to know it. And this is the difference between knowing something or entertaining that intellectually. So this is the idea of the book, and I think that there are people that it will resonate with them, and some people it may not. So there's a lot of methods and ways for a lot of people. I have a certain kind of mind, and my certain kind of mind create this kind of book. But it could be the way of mindful living, or the way of tuning back in, could be in many, many different ways. And personally, now I believe, after all of this journey that I've been walking through, that mindfulness is the best way. It's not it's not necessarily to know the highest truth, because I've been studying the Eastern traditions for a lot of time, and I must say that they're very subtle and high in knowledge, the highest knowledge, really. If you want to dive deep into understanding reality, they've done a great work. But what is the percentage of people that understand that? I would say that less than 1%. And that speaks for itself. So it's not necessary to go there to know. It's just necessary to go in. And the way to go in is by experiencing, is by first-hand experience. And this is what mindfulness is about, and this is what I'm trying to put forward.
It's beautiful. So I have a couple of questions around that. One, the name of your book. So if someone did resonate with what you just said, they have an opportunity to find it.
So the book is called Behind the Mask, Beyond the Mind, and I will be happy to share links of the book and the app. You can put it in the show notes for people. It will be much easier, but it's on Amazon, and also I think all the audio platforms, so you can listen to it or read it.
Fantastic. The follow-up question is, in your experience, being an experiential being, have you found there to be key differences between having the belief in something, then the knowing of something, and then the awareness for how to apply it? Because to me, there's very key differences between all of those.
Absolutely. I think that until you have experienced something, your knowledge of it is just intellectual entertainment. You can say, I know, but you don't really know. I mean, you trust, you believe, but because I'm very influenced by the Eastern traditions, philosophy, and one of the most fundamental things is the Taoist yin yang idea of the duality in the world. So if you believe in something, but you did not experience it, this belief is also, um, it has another side, and this other side is doubt. So you will never be complete in your understanding until you have experienced it. It's like if you never heard music before, I could be very articulate and tell you all about Bach and all about Vivaldi or any other great composer, but it would be just words. So you can trust me that it sounds great, but when you will have the experience of music, it's a whole different game. It's same thing with love and same thing with any other experience. So I think that true knowledge is knowledge by experience, is not knowledge by belief. Belief is a side effect of experience. If you experienced it, you believe by definition, not from the point of view that it sounds good or convincing, but from the point of view that you have experienced it. And that's a major gap. Maybe people don't realize it, but that's a major gap. And I will always strive to experience. And this is why my philosophy and my idea of um, what is a life worth living is just from the standpoint of experiencing, not from any belief. So I always think about something and try it. Think about something and try it. So for your question, I hope that answers your question. That's the great gap between knowing something and experiencing something.
Yes, it does. I've also found from my own personal experience, because I am advocate for experiencing to get experiential knowledge, but belief is what leads me to the knowledge that then takes me to the desire to experience. So I think they're all so very important, but there is that need to go from belief, well, faith to belief to knowledge to experience. So it's almost like a stair step in my world, where if I don't even have that, I don't know if you want to call it download from beyond here that gives me that faith that I can do something, to the belief that it's possible, to the knowledge of going out and exploring it, to then going out and experiencing it. It's almost like that download stair step that gets me there. So they're all so important for me along my journey.
Absolutely, and there's a great saying. I'm not sure if it's a Buddhist saying or a Zen saying, which is very familiar, very similar in many
Mhm.
ways. But they're saying for the regular person, mountains are just mountains. And for the student on the path of enlightenment, mountains are no longer mountains. They're much more profound. But for the enlightened being, mountains are again mountains. So it's the path you have explained, that you're going from faith to belief to experience and then going back to belief. It's absolutely organic. It's natural. It's the way things unfold.
Yeah. So for those who are willing to embrace it, it can be such a profound thing. But if you sit at any one point, then, maybe there's a purpose for that for you on your journey, but you're still sitting still. And you have to ask yourself, is there ever a time for movement? Are you ready to move? And if you're not asking the question, that's where mindfulness can come in. Like, why am I not moving?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I would even say that the question of purpose is very interesting. So a lot of people ask me that question, what should be one's purpose? So I would say that a purpose is something that um, it is done by definition if you're winning or if you're losing. Okay, I'm just using basic terminology. of winning and losing for conveying the idea. So let's say that you are a type of person that wants to, be the winner in life. Okay. And there's the kind of person who is the loser in life. We have this understanding of winning and losing. And so we put our emphasis of purpose, the word purpose, on the winning side and not on the losing side, right?
Yeah.
But if we would take any sports, let's take I don't know, boxing, for example. So usually people remember the champions because the champions are the winners. But the reason the champions are winners is simply because there was losers along their way, along their path. So in a way, it doesn't matter what position you are. Are you winning or are you losing? You are serving a purpose. The purpose is being served anyway. You're moving or you're not moving. The art of life is to understand your individuality and act on it. And if you're not acting on your individuality, you're losing, but you're still serving a purpose. So don't worry, you're anyway serving a divine purpose. But you can absolutely tune in to your individuality and live your purpose uh, for its ultimate potential. That's what I feel.
That is, I love that. And I might have to borrow it.
You go ahead. And nothing is mine. We are all connected. So any idea I have is coming from the field of all of us. I can speak the language because I've learned the language from someone who invented the language. So you go ahead and use it, and I'll be proud of that.
Well, thank you. And I agree with that too. Knowledge is not owned.
Absolutely.
I had a very dear friend, Swami Purna, who used to always say, I haven't talked to him in a while, but he would always say that what is the purpose of a flower, right? It just is its purpose. It embodies its purpose. It doesn't ask, what is my purpose? It just embodies it. And it is the same for all. We don't have to continue to ask, just be it wherever you are all of the time.
Absolutely. And if I just may add to
Yeah,
your analogy,
please.
if we're talking about the world of plants, so you can say that an apple tree is an apple tree. It doesn't strive to be an apple tree. It is an apple tree. So it serves the purpose of an apple, creating apples and all different purposes of being a home for insects or whatever, and creating air that we can breathe. An apple tree doesn't have the self-reflective mechanism that we humans have, which is looking at ourselves and asking all these questions. So it is, by definition, an apple tree. It doesn't try to be a lemon tree. So when we are, as people, asking what is our purpose, we are, in a way, trying to be a different tree. We're trying to, instead of appling, we're trying to lemon, or we're trying to be a, all these other different trees that there are in nature. And you can see that in society where we have a lot of masks. We are trying to be someone. So when we tune in, it's like going back to the metaphor of just be a flower. So each of us is a kind of a flower, is a kind of an apple tree with our own unique potential, individual potential. And the way I see that life can play out in the most profound way is if you understand who you are and then just let it come out of you. And from my personal experience, I feel that the best outcomes in my life has been through this understanding and with this understanding.
Amazing wisdom. Thank you for sharing that. So, if there are individuals in our community who are listening to this and are very drawn to you, is there a way that they can reach out to you, get in connection with you? Do you have a community beyond the app and the book that is your community where they could join in?
Well, currently at this point, we are building the mindfulness community around Affirmate. So it will be very helpful if you can get in touch with me or my amazing co founder Roy through our app or through our website. You can go to affirmate.app or you can just download the app. We are very excited about talking to people, listening to people, understanding what are the challenges, or even just general suggestions, or you just want to reach out and say, hey, that's cool. So that would be a great place to get in touch, and a lot of people do get in touch from these channels. So I invite all of your listeners who have any question or they want to follow up on this show. I'm there. You can find me there.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that, again, all of that is in the show notes, and there's quick, easy ways for individuals to get in connection with you. Again, it's Rudy Daniel, correct? I said your last name correctly.
Yes.
Seemed pretty easy, but I wanted to make sure. You never know.
Although the spelling here is not correct. The I is before the E
Yeah,
under my name.
I don't know how that happened. We'll make sure it's correct everywhere that we put it out. Thank you for letting me know that. And I've really, really enjoyed our time together. And I look forward to, we have other avenues where we get together and we chat. We have a community that has gathered together to learn how to go inward and reflect into that heart-centered space to align their heart and mind and create those cracks in reality, as you mentioned. So maybe we can do this more often, and you can continue to share these tools and these resources as you create more. We would absolutely love that.
I would love to. I would love to. That would be amazing.
Fantastic. And thank you, fantastic heart leader community. We are so grateful for you in every way. And while you're here, continue to explore all of the amazing content we have on the Heart Leader podcast.